September 22, 1963, 8 p.m. 23 million Americans were watching CBS Evening News when network owner William Richardson looked directly into the camera and said the words that would cost 9 broadcasters their lives. Tonight we present a primitive specimen to demonstrate human evolution. This Negro represents what civilized society has evolved beyond. By October 8th, Richardson's entire broadcasting staff was either dead, hospitalized, or fleeing television forever. This is the story of 16 days that taught the American media system that racism has consequences even when you control what millions of people see and hear every night. When Bumpy Johnson finished teaching that lesson, television networks across the country quietly implemented new policies about appropriate broadcasting content. They never explained why 9 respected media executives had suddenly died from mysterious broadcasting accidents. To understand why CBS network owner William Richardson thought he could humiliate black people on national television without consequences, you need to understand American media in 19th. Television racism was systematic and institutionalized. Black people were rarely shown on TV except as servants, criminals, or objects of scientific curiosity. Network owners felt empowered to present racist content as educational programming without fear of consequence. Richardson was 51 years old, owner of CBS Television Network for 15 years, with absolute control over what 23 million Americans watched every night. He'd built his media empire on educational programming that used television to reinforce white supremacy through scientific-sounding racist content. Richardson came from a wealthy Connecticut broadcasting family. His father had pioneered radio programming, promoting racial superiority theories, and Richardson had expanded that mission into television, with shows presenting black people as evolutionary inferior to white civilization. He'd personally written academic papers about broadcast anthropology that justified racist programming as scientific education. What Richardson didn't understand was that some people possessed the intelligence and resources to wage war against media racism through methods that television cameras couldn't record or broadcasting licenses couldn't protect against. September 22, 1963, 7:45 p.m., CBS Television Studio, Manhattan. Richardson had arranged what he promoted as groundbreaking educational programming about human evolution and racial development. Bumpy Johnson had been lured to the studio under false pretenses, told that CBS wanted to interview him about Harlem community development. Instead, he found himself on a live television set designed to humiliate him before millions of viewers. "Good evening, America." Richardson began his live broadcast as 23 million viewers watched. Tonight, CBS presents a special scientific program about human evolution that will demonstrate the progress of white civilization. Richardson gestured toward Bumpy, who stood calmly, despite realizing he'd been trapped in a racist television ambush. Tonight, we present a primitive specimen to demonstrate human evolution. This Negro represents what civilized society has evolved beyond. The television cameras captured Richardson's racist commentary. Notice the primitive facial structure, the limited intellectual capacity, the animal-like posture that suggests incomplete evolutionary development. Richardson had arranged scientific props and visual aids to make his racist presentation appear educational. This specimen lacks the intellectual development necessary for civilized behavior. Notice how it demonstrates the primitive thinking that white civilization has evolved beyond. Throughout this televised humiliation broadcast to 23 million Americans, Bumpy stood perfectly still, his eyes fixed on Richardson with dangerous intensity. Finally, Bumpy spoke directly into the live television camera. "Mr. Richardson, you just made a decision that's going to cost you everything you value in this world." Richardson laughed with media arrogance. "Is the specimen threatening me on live television?" Notice how quickly it resorts to intimidation when confronted with intellectual analysis. "I don't make threats," Bumpy replied, looking directly into the camera. "I make promises, and I promise America that when you use television to dehumanize people based on race, some lessons are taught outside studios by people who understand the true value of human dignity." Richardson cut to commercial and had security escort Bumpy out, believing he'd successfully demonstrated white superiority to the largest television audience in American history. But 23 million Americans had witnessed something unprecedented. A black man refusing to accept racist humiliation on live television and promising consequences that broadcasting power couldn't prevent. That night, Bumpy planned a systematic response to televised racism that would change American broadcasting forever. Over the following days, Bumpy gathered intelligence on every producer, director, and executive who'd participated in Richardson's racist television program. His network had contacts throughout the broadcasting system: technical staff, maintenance workers, security personnel. Within 1 week, Bumpy had comprehensive profiles on 9 broadcasting professionals who'd enabled Richardson's live televised racism, complete with their routines, responsibilities, and vulnerabilities. The plan was sophisticated and appropriate. Instead of street violence, Bumpy would eliminate Richardson's staff through television-related accidents that appeared natural but demonstrated that media power had lethal limits when used for racist purposes. 9 broadcasters would die over 16 days from accidents that appeared random but were precisely engineered demonstrations of media accountability. September 25th, Day 3. Producer Michael Stevens, who designed the racist camera angles and written Richardson's script, died from massive electrical shock in the editing room. Investigation found tampered equipment but no suspects. September 27th, Day 5. Director Patricia Murphy, who directed the cameras during Bumpy's humiliation, died from radiation poisoning after exposure to modified broadcast transmission equipment emitting lethal radiation levels. September 29th, Day 7. Technical Director Robert Crawford, who'd manipulated audio to make Bumpy sound primitive, was killed when a lighting rig collapsed during maintenance. Critical support cables had been severed. October 1st, Day 9. Sound engineer Sarah Wilson, who'd made Bumpy's speech seem more animal-like, died from chemical poisoning when cleaning solvents were deliberately mixed to create lethal gas in the sound booth. October 3rd, Day 11. Camera operator David Martinez, who'd filmed the racist visual angles, suffered fatal injuries when broadcast equipment exploded during routine operation, sending metal fragments through his body. October 4th, Day 12. News anchor Jennifer Adams, who'd promoted the racist program, was found dead from apparent drug overdose. Someone had replaced her prescription medication with lethal combinations. October 5th, Day 13. Studio manager William Foster, who'd coordinated the setup for Bumpy's humiliation, died from electrocution when broadcast equipment was modified to deliver lethal voltage. October 6th, Day 14. Advertising director Margaret Thompson, who'd sold commercial time around the racist program, was killed when her car radio exploded due to modified broadcast equipment secretly installed overnight. October 8th, Day 16. Network Vice President Charles Henderson, who'd approved Richardson's racist program at the corporate level, died from apparent heart failure with no medical explanation. By October 8th, Richardson had lost 9 broadcasting staff members to accidents that defied probability but couldn't be connected to any individual or organization. Richardson understood what was happening and who was responsible, but proving criminal responsibility was impossible when every death appeared to be random broadcasting accident. The television industry was in complete shock over the systematic elimination of CBS broadcasting professionals. Other network executives quietly began reviewing their own programming policies, understanding that racist content might have consequences beyond federal regulations or public criticism. On October 9th, Richardson met with Federal Communications Commission Chairman Newton Minow. The FCC's response was swift. Richardson's broadcasting license was suspended. He was permanently banned from television and forced to sell his media assets. The FCC issued Broadcasting Directive 1963. Broadcasting content will maintain respect for all racial groups. Programming that dehumanizes individuals based on race violates federal standards. Television network executives nationwide understood racist broadcasting was now a survival risk. Word spread throughout the television industry that someone had systematically eliminated broadcasting staff without evidence. This influenced media behavior and broadcasting policies for decades. Federal investigators found no evidence connecting the deaths to criminal activity. The systematic broadcasting deaths remained officially unexplained, but privately understood throughout the media industry. The story became television folklore, shared as a cautionary tale about maintaining ethical content standards, regardless of personal racial beliefs or audience ratings. Richardson never worked in television again. The racist program was never rebroadcast and became legendary as the incident that changed television's approach to racial content forever. This is the story of 16 days that taught the American media system that racism has consequences even when you control what millions of people see every night. When Richardson used national television to present Bumpy as a primitive specimen, he thought broadcasting power would protect him. Instead, he learned that media accountability extends far beyond television studios and reaches people who don't respect cameras or federal licenses when human dignity is violated on live television. The lesson resonated throughout American television. Media professionals understood that broadcasting ethics weren't just federal regulations, they were survival requirements in a system where some people could enforce media accountability through methods that couldn't be prosecuted or prevented. If this story of media justice and sophisticated broadcasting lessons moved you, hit that subscribe button. Share with someone who understands that television content should respect human dignity, regardless of race. In comments, let me know. Was Bumpy's response to televised racism justified? Next week, we're revealing classified FCC files that documented this incident, but were sealed for 60 years, showing how one man's fight changed American television forever.